Hi everybody, it's Margaret here with 60 and Me. Hope that you're doing great today. Have you ever thought about writing your life story, your memoir? It's something that I've thought about often, and maybe it's something that you're considering. I mean, perhaps you're thinking to yourself, well, my life's actually not that interesting. Who would want to read about my life? Well, it doesn't have to be published to the whole world. It can be something that you do for your family, for your grandchildren. I know in my life, there's so many people that I've lost who I really wished I'd taken more time to ask them questions. You know, there was one woman in particular, Janet Gilka, who was just a really good friend, and she just taught me so much about life, and she had a fascinating, series of experiences in her life. And I always wanted to write a book about her life because she didn't want to do it herself. But I think there's this desire that maybe you don't even know about, that people want to know about your life and about what you did and the decisions that you made. And I just think it's something to think about for, as I said, for your family, for your grandchildren, and for yourself. Because I think it can open so many doors, so many, connections. It can see the dots can start to connect, and it might just be something that you have been putting off for several reasons. One might be that you think it's just too much work. It's just too hard to sit down and write it out. Well, first of all, you don't have to write it out. You can actually record it, which is something I have done, and just use the time that you've got between other things that you think 20 minutes isn't enough time, but done repeatedly, done in a systematic way, you can do it. You can create that memoir. Now, Linda Wazinski, one of our bloggers, wrote this article on writing your memoir is easier than you think. And when you think about it, I don't have time, or I don't have an interesting story, or who would want to read it. I think I've kind of hopefully addressed some of those concerns. But what are the reasons that for you that you can consider writing your memoir? Well, for one thing, and this is one angle that I had never thought about, and that is simply that writing your memoir, or writing in general, is good for your health. It's actually a good physical release of stress to actually sit down and write, whether it's dictating or writing, longhand or typing, whatever. There's an article that by James Pennebaker that Linda references, and it's called "Opening Up by Writing It Down." And it actually shows you, explains in this book apparently, how writing can actually help with asthma, with stress, with rheumatoid arthritis. That there's all kinds of physical things that can be released and relaxed by sitting down and writing. She also talks about the Pomodoro, am I pronouncing that correctly? Pomodoro Technique, which is a technique of writing, and a lot of writers apparently use this technique of writing for 25 minutes, taking a 5-minute break, and then writing for another 20 minutes or 25 minutes. And, when we think about how we spend our days, I mean, it's almost certain that you can find, 20 minutes or 40 minutes to allocate to this process. And it doesn't have to be, for years. You can accomplish this in a few weeks or months, whatever pace. I actually have a book. It's called The Book of Me. And it was one of these books where you write in the book answers to questions. And I found that was a really wonderful way to do a legacy. You didn't have to, write a whole document with a title and the body and the ending. It was actually just having this Book of Me answer all the stories. And so it would be a great thing for your grandkids to read. And it told them, the questions were about your life, about your childhood. What was important to you? What was your relationship with your family? Where did you live? What was your house like? And that's another way of using that time, that 20 minutes, that Pomodoro method, to sort of find 40 minutes in a day to actually write down your life, your thoughts. You say to yourself, I don't have anything to say. What's the point? I've made so many mistakes. You can go on and on about why your story isn't a good one. And maybe you're not a celebrity, but people can learn from ordinary people. You probably just don't realize the things that you have done in your life that are potentially life-changing for someone else. And if you just took the time to sit down and think it through, those kind of roadways, or the milestones, or the forks in the road that you had to decide one way or the other, somebody else might be going through that, exact same situation. And we are walking this journey together. and all the things that you think about are being, irrelevant or not interesting enough, they may be totally relevant to someone else. Have you ever found that? I mean, have you ever found, like, years later, someone maybe emailed you or sent you a note saying, gosh, that story you told me about this really helped me to clarify. And I see that in our 60andMe comments to articles. If we write a story about something that's emotionally intense or touching, someone will say, it makes me feel so good to hear that person write down the story and for me to know that I'm not alone. And then, the next thing that Linda talks about that you might put as a kind of obstacle is, well, I can't write. I mean, I don't know how to write. I don't know how to put words together. Well, you've written emails, you've had pen pals, you've written, jotted down notes. You maybe have kept a gratitude journal. That's a really cool way to learn how to write things out. But it doesn't have to be perfect English. By the way, Grammarly is a really good tool. It's free to install it on your computer, and it kind of helps you with grammar and structure of your writing. And there's others too. I think Hemingway is another one. But there's lots of ways to help you write, actually physically construct the sentences. It's not that hard, honestly. And it doesn't have to be perfect English. It's just the flow of information. So another thing that Linda talks about, which I think is actually a very, very good one, is your family may not want you to tell the story. And you may feel that, like, oh, I really can't write about that, about my divorce or why I got divorced or what happened or what happened, because, they would be upset. But you don't need permission from anybody else, honestly. I mean, you don't have to be malicious or kind of victim blaming or whatever. You don't have to be harsh about your revelations. Maybe some of them are best to keep a little secret, but you can certainly talk about it at a higher level, and people will know exactly the point you're trying to get to. They'll understand. Tell the truth. I mean, don't dig up resentments and regrets and spiteful, sort of recriminations or try to get back at someone by writing it down. But I think if you're honest about what happened in the relationships, you only have to answer to yourself. Maybe you don't agree with that. What do you think? I may be simplifying that. But the point is to start small, just start jotting down your favorite books, your favorite places that you lived, the very simple things, the ones that are not controversial, that are just simply stories of your life. Maybe do it in chapters by, the first 10 years, second 10 years, or, you could do my childhood, my work time, my family time, my reflection time, my spiritual time, whatever, how you sort of categorize the thoughts about your life. And, pick. And one lesson or one exercise that Linda talks about, which I really like this one, is she talks about choosing, like starting small by choosing one person in your life and draw, and I'm just making sure I get this right here, just draw like lines from that circle, put the name of that person, and then ask yourself to answer the questions. What was their favorite thing? What do you know about, how did they look? What was their best quality? Something that they might typically say, a mantra, a word of advice. Well, mine is what, we shall not cease from exploration, and at the end of all our exploring, we'll return back where we started, but know the place for the first time. That's one of my mantras. And the other one is, this is one of my very favorite ones, which Elizabeth Kubler-Ross taught me, which was, we often criticize in other people the things that we fear most in ourselves. I don't know how many times I've said that to my children. They're like, okay, Mom, we get it. But it's just it's so true. It's just for me. So anyway, there's other things about this person. What were their life dreams? What was their worst habit or their bad habits? And then pick one of these categories, set a timer for 15 minutes and write. And bring that person back into your life, back into your memory. I think it's a really cool exercise. You don't have to write a whole book. You can write a short story. But I think just putting down some facts about your background, what you learned, your wisdom as an older woman, and having it available, put it with your will for people to read and enjoy and learn about you. It's a really cool thing to do. Is this something that you've thought about doing? Have you actually written your biography or your autobiography? Have you written a memoir? Leave your comments below. Let's have a chat about it. I think it'd be really cool. And if you've got any questions or any doubts about getting started, put your question out there and let people help you move you along on the journey. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, and hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. And by your side always, take really good care of yourself, stay strong, and we'll talk again soon.